The soft glow of a laptop screen illuminates Anna's face, etched with quiet weariness. Her fingers scroll almost mechanically through a vibrant social media feed. Smiling couples on exotic vacations, friends clinking glasses at a lively bar, proud parents showcasing their children's latest achievements. Each image, a meticulously curated snippet of joy, serves only to amplify the cavernous silence in her own living room. Anna isn't alone in the physical sense. Her phone buzzes intermittently with notifications. Her apartment complex hums with the distant murmur of other lives. But an insidious, profound sense of aloneness has settled over her, a chill that no blanket or warm drink can quite dissipate. This isn't merely the fleeting sadness of a quiet evening. It's a pervasive feeling, a symptom of what Irvin Yalom, in his masterful exploration of the human condition, might term existential isolation. In works like Existential Psychotherapy, Yalom painstakingly dissects the four ultimate concerns of human existence: death, freedom, existential isolation, and meaninglessness. While physical isolation refers to being alone geographically, and interpersonal isolation speaks to a lack of connection with others, existential isolation is far more fundamental. It's the unbridgeable gap between oneself and all others, the chilling realization that no matter how close we become to another person, we must ultimately enter existence alone and depart from it alone. This isn't a flaw in our relationships. It's an inherent aspect of being human. Modern life, ironically, has a unique way of exacerbating this primal aloneness, even while promising unprecedented connectivity. We live in an age where communication is instantaneous, global, and seemingly limitless. Yet, beneath the veneer of constant updates, likes, and shares, a deep sense of disconnection often festers. Social media, a purported bridge to others, often acts as a mirror reflecting an idealized version of life, creating a constant, subtle pressure to perform happiness and success. Anna, scrolling through her feed, isn't seeing authentic struggles or shared vulnerabilities. She's witnessing a highlight reel designed to evoke envy and a sense of inadequacy. This performance often leads to what Yalom frequently highlights in his clinical tales, particularly in Love's Executioner, where patients struggle with the burden of presenting a perfect self, fearing that their true, flawed selves are unacceptable, thus preventing genuine connection. The very tools meant to connect us can inadvertently deepen our existential chill, fostering a competitive loneliness where everyone appears vibrant and connected except for us. Furthermore, the relentless pace and demands of modern society can contribute significantly to this internal solitude. We are often driven by external metrics of success, careers, material possessions, social standing, often at the expense of genuine human connection and introspection. The very structures of our lives can be set up to minimize downtime, reduce spontaneous interactions, and prioritize efficiency over deep engagement. This constant busyness can serve as a powerful distraction from the deeper questions of existence. But when the distractions fade, the existential void often reemerges, sometimes with greater intensity. Yalom consistently argues that escaping these ultimate concerns is impossible. They are woven into the fabric of our being. The anxiety stemming from our awareness of mortality, for instance, can subtly influence our relationships, making us cling too tightly or push others away, inadvertently deepening our isolation. The existential chill is not a sign of weakness or a personal failing. It is a profound human experience, intensified by the paradoxical nature of our hyperconnected yet often isolated world. It is a quiet understanding that while we share the human condition, each of us navigates our unique journey, ultimately alone in our subjective experience. Recognizing this fundamental truth, as unsettling as it may be, is the crucial first step. It is a moment when the lights dim on the superficial distractions, allowing us to truly feel the depth of our own being and the inherent aloneness that accompanies it. Only by acknowledging this fundamental aspect of our existence can we begin the arduous but ultimately rewarding journey of seeking meaning and genuine connection, not as an escape from isolation, but as a way to live more fully within its shadow. The morning light streams through the window, but Anna remains curled on her sofa, the laptop now closed beside her. The digital world has receded, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier, more oppressive. Yesterday's existential chill has mutated into something more insidious, a profound sense of helplessness. It's as if an invisible wall has materialized around her, not just separating her from others, but from the possibility of action of change. This isn't just about feeling lonely. It's about feeling utterly incapable of doing anything about it. This is the moment when loneliness ceases to be a mere state and becomes a psychological prison. Its bars forged from fear, self-doubt, and the insidious belief that effort is futile. This particular brand of helplessness, so acutely felt in the throes of deep loneliness, is something Irvin Yalom frequently observes in his clinical practice, eloquently captured in the patient narratives of Love's Executioner or the philosophical dialogues of When Nietzsche Wept. He understood that the human psyche, when faced with overwhelming pain or perceived lack of control, can retreat into a state of passivity. If every attempt at connection has ended in perceived failure, if every reach for intimacy has met with rejection, or if the sheer effort of simply trying feels too monumental, the mind begins to rationalize inaction. What's the point? Becomes a quiet mantra, subtly undermining any nascent impulse to reach out or engage. This isn't laziness. It's a form of emotional paralysis, a learned helplessness where the individual, having experienced repeated negative outcomes, internalizes a belief that their actions simply won't make a difference. Consider the intricate psychological mechanisms at play here. The fear of rejection is paramount. Having ventured out, perhaps having shared a vulnerable piece of herself in the past only to be met with indifference or misunderstanding, Anna now hesitates. Her mind conjures vivid, often exaggerated, scenarios of future rebuffs. Each hypothetical door slammed shut reinforces the idea that it's safer, less painful, to simply stay put. This fear isn't irrational. It's a protective mechanism gone awry, turning a cautious instinct into an impenetrable barrier. Yalom often points out how deeply ingrained these fears are, rooted in early life experiences or profound disappointments. A patient in the Schopenhauer cure, for instance, might meticulously avoid group interaction, not out of disdain, but from profound terror or judgment, a fear that holds them captive within their own internal world. Furthermore, past hurts play a critical role. Old wounds, whether from childhood abandonment, a broken friendship, or a romantic betrayal, leave scars that whisper warnings. These historical narratives often morph into a rigid self-concept. I am unlovable. I am always left behind. I am not interesting enough. These are not objective truths, but rather internal constructs reinforced by the cycle of withdrawal. When one believes they are fundamentally flawed or undesirable, the thought of exposing themselves to potential judgment feels unbearable. This internal conviction acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating a feedback loop where belief of being unworthy leads to isolation, which then reinforces the belief of being unworthy. The prison is built as much from these internal narratives as from external circumstances. The insidious nature of this trap lies in its subtlety. It doesn't always manifest as dramatic despair, but often as a dull ache, a quiet resignation. Daily routines become automated, devoid of joy or anticipation. The world outside seems to move with vibrant energy, while the individual feels like a static observer, watching life unfold from behind a pane of thick, soundproof glass. The belief that change is impossible solidifies, transforming a temporary state into a seemingly permanent condition. This sense of being powerless to alter one's circumstances is the very essence of helplessness, transforming the wide-open landscape of potential into a confined cell. Yalom would argue that therapists often have to meticulously chip away at these layers of fear and ingrained beliefs, helping patients to recognize that while they may not control external events, they do possess the freedom to choose their response and, crucially, to act. The first step out of this prison isn't necessarily a grand gesture, but often a tiny, brave decision to challenge one of those self-limiting beliefs. Anna sits by the window, a book open on her lap, though her gaze is fixed on the distant horizon. The previous feelings of helplessness still linger, but new, quiet thought has begun to surface. It's a thought prompted not by external advice, but by an internal flicker, a nascent recognition that perhaps the path out of this isolation isn't about building higher walls, but about dismantling them. This is a pivotal moment where, to borrow from Irvin Yalom's profound insights into existential therapy, we consider the radical notion of facing the void. This isn't about succumbing to despair, but about confronting the very truths that make us human. Our anxieties, our imperfections, our shared mortality, and discovering that in this shared vulnerability lies the unlikely key to genuine connection. Yalom, particularly in existential psychotherapy, argues that human beings, By their very nature, are meaning-seeking creatures who are simultaneously confronted with the givens of existence: death, freedom, and responsibility, isolation, and meaninglessness. It is in our struggle with these givens that much of our anxiety and, indeed, our isolation arises. We often expend immense energy trying to deny or escape these truths, building elaborate defenses. The perfect social media persona, the relentless pursuit of achievement, the avoidance of deep, personal conversations. Anna's scroll through idealized lives earlier was precisely this: an attempt to create a perfect external image, perhaps to ward off her inner fears, or to present herself as someone utterly free of existential burdens. Yet these defenses, while offering temporary comfort, ultimately deepen the existential isolation they seek to circumvent. By refusing to acknowledge our shared human predicament, we cut ourselves off on the most fundamental basis for empathy and connection. The concept of vulnerability here is paramount. It's often perceived as a weakness, a dangerous exposure. Society frequently encourages us to be strong, self-reliant, and to keep our struggles private. But what if the opposite were true? What if the greatest strength lies in the courage to reveal our authentic selves, flaws and all? This is where Yalom's work truly shines. He consistently shows through his characters and his clinical reflections that true intimacy is forged not in shared perfection, but in shared imperfection. In Love's Executioner, for instance, the therapist himself often practices a form of controlled self-disclosure, revealing his own struggles or uncertainties, not to burden the patient, but to model authenticity and create a space where the patient feels safe enough to drop their own defenses. This act of being seen, truly seen, in our flawed humanity is what allows for a deeply resonant thou encounter, a concept central to philosopher Martin Buber, whose work heavily influenced Yalom. Embracing our shared vulnerability means acknowledging that we are all, to varying degrees, grapple with the same fundamental fears and uncertainties. We all face the inevitability of death. We all bear the burden of our freedom and the responsibility for our choices. We all experience moments of profound aloneness, when we can look another person in the eye and, through our words or our quiet understanding, convey, "I know what it's like to feel lost," or "I too carry fears." We create an immediate, powerful bridge. This isn't about wallowing in negativity, but about finding a common ground of authentic human experience. It's about recognizing that the void, the absence of inherent meaning, the fact of our ultimate aloneness, is something we all confront. And in this shared confrontation, we find solidarity. For Anna, this shift might involve a small, brave step, perhaps confiding a genuine fear to a trusted friend, or choosing to share a less-than-perfect moment on social media instead of filter highlight. It's about dismantling the internal walls that keep her from being truly seen. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same, creating a reciprocal space of trust and empathy. This process isn't easy. It requires immense courage to step away from the comforting illusion of control and perfection. But as Yalom's narratives often demonstrate, it is precisely in these moments of authentic encounter, rooted in a shared recognition of our human fragility, that the most profound and healing connections are formed, beginning the arduous but essential process of moving from the stifling grip of helplessness toward a more expansive, connected existence. Anna sits at a small table, a half-empty cup of coffee before her. Across from her, a new acquaintance, Mark, speaks with genuine enthusiasm about a shared interest, perhaps a local art exhibit or a book they both enjoyed. Anna isn't scrolling her phone. She's not planning her next response. Instead, she's listening, truly listening. Her eyes are engaged, her posture open. This is not just a conversation. It feels different, more resonant. This is the unfolding of what philosopher Martin Buber called an thou moment, a concept deeply integrated into Irvin Yalom's approach to human connection and therapy. It's a radical departure from the transactional, superficial exchanges that often characterize modern interactions, and it holds immense power in moving from the isolation of helplessness toward the richness of fullness. Yalom, in his direct clinical narratives and philosophical explorations, consistently emphasizes the profound healing potential of genuine encounter. He understands that much of our loneliness stems from pervasive I-it mode of relating, where we perceive others as objects to be used, analyzed, or categorized. Think of the endless swiping on dating apps. where individuals are reduced to profiles, or networking events, where conversations are meticulously crafted to serve a professional agenda, or even the way we sometimes listen to others, not understand, but to formulate our rebuttal or share our own story. In these I-it interactions, true connection is impossible because the other person's full humanity is not being acknowledged. They are a means to an end, rather than an end in themselves. An I-thou moment, by contrast, is a sacred space where two individuals meet each other in their entirety, with their full presence, authenticity, and vulnerability. It's about seeing the other person not as a role or a collection of traits, but as a unique, irreplaceable being. This requires active listening, not just hearing words, but truly listening to the underlying emotions, the unspoken fears, the subtle nuances of their expression. It demands empathy, the capacity to step into another's shoes and understand their world, even if only for a fleeting moment. And crucially, it calls for genuine presence, putting aside distractions, silencing the internal monologue, and fully immersing oneself in the interaction unfolding right now. Yalom's own therapeutic style, as depicted in the Schopenhauer Cure or When Nietzsche Wept, often models this. He doesn't merely analyze. He engages with his patients on a deeply human level, sharing his own reflections and vulnerabilities when appropriate, creating a mutual space of authenticity. Crafting these moments in daily life begins with intention. It means consciously choosing to step out of the habitual, superficial patterns of interaction. For Anna, this might mean putting her phone away when she's with someone, making eye contact, and asking open-ended questions that invite deeper sharing. It's about being willing to sit with discomfort, to allow silence to exist without rushing to fill it, and to truly hear what's being communicated, not just what's being said. It also involves a reciprocal willingness to reveal parts of oneself, to share an honest thought or feeling, even if it feels slightly uncomfortable. This is where the vulnerability discussed in our previous topic becomes crucial. It's the bridge that allows an I-it interaction to transform into an I-thou encounter. The power of these moments is transformative. They diminish the sense of existential isolation because they affirm that, at least for a fleeting time, the unbridgeable gap feels a little less vast. When we truly connect with another, we feel seen, understood, and valued. These are the feelings that combat the insidious creep of loneliness and erode the foundations of helplessness. Such connections build a sense of belonging, not through forced proximity, but through genuine resonance. They remind us that while we are ultimately alone in our individual consciousness, we are deeply interconnected in our shared human experience. It's in these moments, a shared laugh, a knowing glance, a profound conversation, that the true antidote to loneliness is found, paving the way for a life that feels more meaningful and, ultimately, more full. Anna stands at her small desk, not scrolling, not passively consuming, but actively sketching designs for a community garden project. There's a quiet intensity in her focus, a sense of productive engagement that was conspicuously absent days ago. The existential chill and the trap of helplessness haven't vanished entirely. They are fundamental human experiences, after all, but their grip has significantly loosened. She's discovering a powerful truth that Irvin Yalom often illuminates in his work, that while authentic connections with others are vital, a deep and personal sense of purpose can serve as an equally potent antidote to the sting of loneliness, transforming an empty void into a space of meaningful engagement. Yalom, particularly in Existential Psychotherapy, grapples with the inherent meaninglessness of the universe. He doesn't sugarcoat the fact that meaning is not handed to us. It must be constructed. This can be a terrifying realization, leading to a sense of meaninglessness that often underpins deep feelings of isolation and despair. If life has no inherent purpose, then what's the point of anything, including connection? However, Yalom's message isn't nihilistic. It's empowering. He suggests that while there is no cosmic meaning, we possess the radical freedom to create our own meaning, to infuse our lives with purpose that resonates with us. This act of creation, of defining what matters, becomes a bulwark against the vastness of the void. For someone experiencing profound loneliness, the absence of purpose can be particularly acute when days lack direction, when activities feel hollow, and when the future appears bleak. The sense of isolation can deepen into a crippling apathy. Without a guiding star, the individual feels adrift, unconnected not only to others, but also to a larger narrative or reason for being. This is where the concept of purpose steps in. It's not about achieving grand, world-changing feats. Instead, it can be found in the mundane, in the everyday, in the small act of creation or contribution. Consider Anna's community garden project. It's not about curing cancer or ending world hunger. It's about cultivating something, beautifying a shared space, contributing to her local environment, and potentially connecting with others who share a similar interest. This project gives her days structure, her actions direction, and her efforts a tangible outcome. Each small step, sketching, researching plants, reaching out to local nurseries, becomes imbued with significance. This engagement with something beyond her immediate self helps to pull her out of the internal echo chamber of loneliness. Yalom would argue that this kind of self-transcendence, focusing on something outside of one's own immediate needs, is a crucial path to mitigating existential anxiety. Finding purpose can take myriad forms. It might be through a creative pursuit like painting or writing, through learning a new skill that challenges and engages a mind, through volunteering for a cause one believes in, through mentoring someone, or even through the diligent and mindful practice of one's profession. The key is that the activity resonates deeply with one's values and provides a sense of contribution or personal growth. When we are engaged in purposeful activity, our attention shifts outward. The internal monologue of loneliness, often fixated on self-pity or regret, is interrupted by the demands and rewards of the task at hand. This active engagement creates a positive feedback loop. The more we contribute or create, the more meaning we find, which in turn fuels further engagement. Moreover, purpose often leads to incidental connections. While the primary goal of purposeful activity isn't necessarily social, it frequently creates opportunities for authentic interaction. Sharing a passion with others, collaborating on a project, or simply being present in a community that values similar things naturally fosters the I-thou moments we discussed earlier. These connections feel organic, build on shared meaning rather than a desperate attempt to fill a void. Thus, purpose not only fills the internal emptiness, but also organically opens doors to external connection, becoming a powerful bridge from the suffocating grip of helplessness and loneliness toward a life rich with meaning and, ultimately, a profound sense of fullness. The community garden project is thriving. Photos on Anna's phone now show vibrant green shoots and smiling faces, including her own. She's not just sketching designs anymore. She's digging, planting, and sharing laughter with new friends. The pervasive sense of helplessness and the biting loneliness that once defined her solitude have significantly receded. Yet, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across her room, Anna understands that fullness isn't a destination reached and then forgotten. It's a continuous process, a garden that requires constant tending. This final chapter in our exploration, deeply rooted in the wisdom of Irvin Yalom's approach, emphasizes that overcoming loneliness isn't a one-time victory, but commitment to an ongoing journey of growth, connection, and self-cultivation. Yalom, in various works, including his memoirs like Becoming Myself, A Psychiatrist's Journey, reflects on the cyclical nature of human experience. He understands that while we can achieve profound breakthroughs in periods of intense connection and meaning, life invariably presents new challenges, new losses, and renewed encounters with the givens of existence. The existential chill might revisit. Moment of isolation can still arise, even for the most connected individuals. The key isn't to eliminate these experiences entirely, which is an impossible and perhaps even undesirable goal, but to develop the resilience and internal resources to navigate them with greater strength and self-awareness. Cultivating enduring fullness is about building a robust internal framework that can withstand the inevitable ebb and flow of life. It's about recognizing that authenticity, vulnerability, and purpose aren't fixed states, but active practices. Just as Anna's garden needs continuous weeding, watering, and nurturing, so too do our inner lives and our relationships. This means actively maintaining the I-thou connections forged, being present for friends and family, and sometimes courageously initiating new connections even when the old fears whisper. It involves a willingness to revisit our vulnerabilities, to share our ongoing struggles, and to allow others to be there for us, just as we strive to be there for them. Moreover, true fullness involves a commitment to personal growth and self-discovery. The journey doesn't end when loneliness subsides. It transitions into a continuous exploration of who we are, what we value, and how we wish to live. This might involve continuing therapy, engaging in introspective practices like journaling or mindfulness, pursuing new learning opportunities, or simply taking time for quiet reflection. Yalom consistently champions self-reflection as a cornerstone of psychological well-being. He encourages us to confront our fears, understand our patterns, and make conscious choices about the kind of person we want to be. This ongoing self-awareness empowers us to identify early signs of withdrawal or stagnation and take proactive steps to re-engage with life and others. Crucially, fullness also encompasses the understanding that while loneliness may visit, it doesn't have to define us. It becomes one experience among many in a rich tapestry of emotions. Learning to sit with periods of aloneness, not as a reflection of failure, but as an opportunity for introspection or self-rejuvenation, is a sign of profound maturity. This perspective shift allows us to transform a potentially negative experience into a source of quiet strength. For Anna, this might mean occasionally choosing to spend an evening alone, not out of fear or helplessness, but out of a genuine desire for quietude, knowing that her connections and purpose are firmly in place, ready to be engaged with when she chooses. Ultimately, the journey from helplessness to fullness, overcoming loneliness, is a testament to the human spirit's capacity for transformation. It's a call to embrace our inherent aloneness, dare to be vulnerable, cultivate authentic connections, and imbue our lives with self-created purpose. And it's a gentle reminder that this is a lifelong endeavor, a continuous unfolding where resilience, self-compassion, and the courage to engage with life's deepest questions lead to a richer, more meaningful existence. The garden of self and connection, once barren, can indeed bloom, but only with persistent, loving care. We've explored a profound path from helplessness to fullness, navigating complexities of loneliness through the lens of existential wisdom. But this isn't just a discussion, it's an invitation. If these insights resonated with you, if you're ready to cultivate authentic connections and discover your unique purpose, don't walk this path alone. Subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into human experience, practical tools for well-being, and inspiring stories of transformation. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a step on your journey toward a richer, more connected life. Join our community and let's grow together